Welcome back to the channel, Den members, and welcome to that really awkward time of year between Christmas and New Year's where you're still very busy with family and Christmas and holiday events, but you really never are quite sure what day it is. Also, a huge shout out to all of you range safety officers out there. I know this is not particularly your favorite time of year because this is when all those first-time gun owners are coming to the range and thinking they know what they're doing, or maybe the people that have taken them there aren't giving them the proper level of supervision. I know I've personally witnessed some interesting things at ranges between Christmas and New Year's, and I wish all of you the best of luck and Godspeed. I feel like it's been a while since we had a proper gun review on the channel, and I alluded at the very beginning of December that I had a new acquisition. I thought it was the perfect opportunity to do a first impressions and breakdown and gun review of my new FN PS90. And before we go any further, empty magazine, it's clear. And before we get too far into this video, I just want to call out one thing. The PS90 is the civilian variant of the very popular, very well-known firearm, the P90. It's very well known in the gamer world, the millennial, the Gen Z gamer, and sci-fi world. Whereas the P90 is a select fire SBR, or personal defense weapon, PDW. The PS90, the civilian variant here, is sold strictly as a bullpup carbine. As such, it is very happy to be here. The PS90 also is semi-automatic. This is going to be my next project gun, as long as the powers that be allow me to. Among other things, I am getting this SBR'd, but we can talk about that in a little bit when I talk about the potential upgrade path that I have on my PS90. So let's get right into it. The PS90 has to be, in my humble opinion, one of the most unique firearms ever designed. It is one sexy gun, especially once you discount the extra 6 inches of the barrel here. From the, in my opinion, more ergonomic grip points on the gun to the way that the firearm is fed its freedom seeds, it is just a beautiful, compact, effective weapon platform. And that 5.7 round is just a spicy little round, and I love it. So let's get on with the breakdown of this gun. Overall, in its current manufacturer form, with a barrel that is the same length as an AR-15 carbine, is a 26-inch gun. That is markedly more compact than an AR-15. Take off that extra 6 inches and you're down under 20 inches for something that has a 10-inch barrel. That is incredible. This weighs only a little over 6 pounds. Despite all that, it still feels quality and robust in the hands. It does have an integral muzzle brake, which they like to say assists with reducing recoil. Frankly, I wonder what recoil is it reducing, but I'm getting ahead of myself. It's here, it is what it is. It acts as a muzzle brake. Moving back to the tactical rail, you have the iron sights, and I do mean sights because the PS90, being an ambidextrous gun, has a center adjustable iron sight, as well as 2 pistol style irons on the side. I will also say there are spots on either side of the firearm that you can add additional Picatinny, whether you want a tactical light or a laser, what have you. But in regards to the iron sights, even the center peephole iron sight, I think should be used as nothing more as a backup. Throughout this video, you'll see the footage of me and everyone that has shot this using a Vortex red dot sight on the Picatinny on top here. You may be wondering where that is. There was an impromptu drop torture test, handled like a champ. The optic not so much. I really like Vortex and their VIP warranty system. Vortex, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. While the P90, the PS90 is designed to be used with an optic or maybe better irons on the Picatinny rail, you do have an option if something bad happens. Case in point, we still had a very fun range day, and I will say that using those side iron backup sights are strangely comfortable to use. If you have access to a red dot or an optic, use that instead of the built-in irons. Be able to use the irons, but go with a red dot. Below the iron sights and the Picatinny rail, you have the ambidextrous charging handle. You just pull straight back on either side. It is not a reciprocating charging handle. I guess that brings us to the trigger and safety mechanism here. That feels a little weird because usually it's further towards the end of the video, but here we are with the bullpup. The safety is just a toggle switch beneath the trigger in the trigger guard housing. And because it is a semi-automatic, you have two settings, safe and fire. So we'll just toggle that over to fire and we will dry fire this real quick. I've heard a lot of bad things about the trigger pull and the feel of triggers in bullpups. To the best of my knowledge, the PS90 is the only bullpup firearm I have ever shot or even dry fired. And I do understand why a lot of people don't like the trigger. I believe the triggers on most firearms have a more rotational trigger pull. They hinge on a single point. The trigger pulls straight back and it isn't a very light pull. I don't really have a problem with this trigger. I wish it was a little lighter. I will say if you go for a rapid fire mag dump, there is a little bit of trigger fatigue that will set in. Yes, you can work on your finger dexterity, but the easier thing to do, and a lot of times, is to have a lighter trigger pull. So that is one downside, I think, to the PS90 trigger. Do I think it makes it a bad gun? Absolutely not. While we're down by the safety and trigger, why don't we just talk about the unique design? I've seen a lot of people complain about how it feels awkward. Of course, I can't speak for anybody but myself, but I love how the gun feels in my hands. Yes, it is compact. Yes, it is very close to the body, and it makes you have your arms close down. But I think that feeds into the whole idea that this is a personal defense weapon platform. It's meant for close quarters. To me, it just doesn't feel uncomfortable. And that brings us to the feeding mechanism for the PS90. Here I have a YouTube compliant 25 round magazine. I will say that despite FN making a slew of different capacity magazines, they are all the same size. It's just there's a different buffer and spring in each magazine that limits the number of rounds. In the magazine, the rounds are loaded sideways, stacked. As the gun cycles, as more rounds are loaded into battery, fired, and ejected, the rounds are advanced by a spring, and once they get to the end of the magazine, work their way up a feed ramp where they are rotated 90 degrees. Loading the magazine is unimpressively simple. You just push down on the previous round, which will force the round down the ramp into the magazine, and you can load the next round. Being a direct blowback system, once the round is fired, the bolt is forced rearward, and the round is ejected out of the bottom. A little fun fact that some people may not know, there is actually a little dust cover in here. I did not know that until I purchased this PS90. But the dust cover just locks in place, and it opens when you charge the gun or when the first round is fired. And that's the basic specs and rundown of a PS90. Let's go ahead and tear this down and show you how to field strip it real quick. One thing I had to get used to with field stripping the PS90, you have to charge it first. Keep it unloaded, should go without saying, but in this timeline, I'm not sure what we need to and what we don't need to say. Once the gun has been charged, you can depress this button in the middle of the, what I'm gonna call the magwell. You push that down and the top front end of the gun will slide off. You will then want to rotate the stock forward slowly, at which point the moving parts group will come out. With the moving parts group out, you can then slide off the end of the butt stock, the butt pad, and that will reveal the trigger pack. There's a little tab here at the back that lifts up, and then you just depress, and out comes an incredible amount of plastic that is the trigger assembly. The only metal that I can ascertain is in this trigger pack are the springs. Part of me really doesn't like that, but I also know this gun has been around for over 30 years and has seen a lot of service. Now I know that the trigger packs can get destroyed in these, especially with heavy use, but the Belgians seem to have made a pretty durable plastic trigger pack. To reassemble, you just do everything in reverse order. You have to pull up on that tab to get it to go back in. Then you would put the butt pad back on the butt stock. The moving parts group will then slide down into the gun, and you can then reattach the upper portion of the firearm, depressing that button and locking into place. An involved field stripping experience, but very simple nonetheless. That brings me to my first impressions of the PS90 stock from factory. This is quite possibly my new favorite gun in my collection. The unique characteristics of the PS90 really just take the cake. How compact it is, how light it is, its travelability, and the lack of recoil has made this an instant favorite for everybody that is involved with the Phantom Llama's Den. Logan, your time is coming, I promise. The common comment is, it's louder than I was expecting it to be, but it has no recoil. In all, I absolutely love this gun, and I cannot wait to have this in more videos in the future. Now, with that said, and as I alluded to earlier, there are quite a few upgrades and modifications that I am going to be doing to this gun. Once the approval from the ATF comes through, this will be getting the SBR treatment. I do think I'm gonna go with a threaded option, so down the road, if I am so inclined, I can pay for another tax stamp to suppress the PS90. I talked about the optional side Picatinny rail for the tactical rail. I'm going to get those. Don't know what I'm going to put on there yet. Probably a simple flashlight to start. We'll see. I have to do a little more research. Once I've got my Vortex red dot back, I'm going to throw that back on there. I really like it. I know a lot of people like to put EOTechs on their PS90s, but I personally like having a smaller red dot. I love my EOTech hollow sight. And we've got another video coming in the Trash or Bargain series down the road. You're going to want to check that out. If you haven't already, you need to be subscribed to Phantom Llama's Den and hit that bell icon to get notifications. We've got a lot of really cool content coming, and we've got a couple more products that were sent to us for some heavy testing. Let's go with that. Really excited. Other than adding the Picatinny rails and SBRing the firearm, I have seen a lot of recommendations, and I'm going to look into it. The trigger pack can be upgraded with an aluminum trigger and sear. The overwhelming consensus is that that upgraded hammer and sear are vastly superior to the polymer ones, and it makes sense. It doesn't sound like it adds too terribly much weight to the gun. And it also doesn't sound like, or at least I haven't seen anything about the hammer and the sear causing stress to the rest of the polymer trigger pack. If you have a PS90 and if you've upgraded the trigger pack, please leave a comment down below on your thoughts, your experiences. I'd love to hear from you. Lastly, the trigger. I've heard some mixed things about the trigger. I've seen some people that have replaced the trigger completely with an aluminum trigger, but I've heard that that shouldn't really be done, or some people have had nightmare situations with those. But I've also heard a lot of people talking about how they're able to just lighten the trigger pull strength. And if that's something that I can do, that is definitely something on the to-do list. Other than that, the only other thing I can think of is add a sling to it, but this gun is just absolutely fantastic. Like I said, this is going to be a bit of a project gun. I think we'll just do some updates here and there, especially if I upgrade the trigger pack. And of course, once this thing is SBR'd, we'll do a true part 2 review once we have a proper PS90 the way God intended it. Overall, I am absolutely thrilled to own this gun. I cannot wait to see how it evolves with the few upgrades that I just mentioned. I can't wait to have this on the channel more. Please comment down below on what you think of the PS90. Tell me what other guns you'd like to see. I can't guarantee anything. We are still a very small YouTube channel, but we have seen exponential growth, and I cannot wait to see what 2024 brings us. One last thing, and this is gonna sound a little more like Grand Thumb than normal. Happy 2024. We hope that this coming year is better than all the years previously. Make this year the best year yet for you, your family, your loved ones, your friends. Thank you. That's going to do it for this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting the like button and commenting down in the comment section. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notifications for future content. Go check us out on X and Instagram. And as always, don't take life too seriously and make it a great day.